The chief executive officer finished announcing a $100 million tech upgrade to a room full of applause, then turned and ended my career before the clapping faded. "We're entering a new phase," Bryce began, still smiling, still enjoying the attention. "Modern systems. Modern leadership." His gaze moved across the table and stopped on me. "And that means letting go of legacy roles." A pause. Long enough for people to realize what he was doing. "Marlo Bennett," he continued. "Louder now. You're too old. You're holding the company back. Today is your last day." Chairs shifted. Someone near the wall exhaled sharply. No one objected. "This isn't personal," Bryce added, already glancing toward the next slide. "It's progress." A folder slid across the table and stopped in front of me. "If you sign here," the HR manager murmured, hands clasped tight, "we can process this as a voluntary separation." The folder stayed where it was. "I'm not resigning." The room went still. Bryce laughed, quick and dismissive. "You don't get to negotiate anymore." My badge chirped once when I stood, then went dead against the reader by the door. The security guard stepped forward without meeting my eyes and waved me through manually. As I passed Bryce, he leaned in close enough that only I could hear him. "Return all company materials," he whispered. "You never owned anything here." I didn't respond, not because I didn't have words, but because I didn't need them. My name is Marlo Bennett. Until 10 minutes ago, I was the principal systems architect at Apex Manufacturing Systems. I had been there longer than Bryce, longer than most of the board, long enough to recognize the confidence of someone celebrating a future he didn't fully understand. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at RevengeAITA. While inspired by real workplace power dynamics and emotional truths many professionals face, all characters, companies, and events are works of fiction. This story explores accountability, dignity, and the cost of mistaking experience for irrelevance. I stepped into the hallway and checked my phone out of habit. A calendar alert flashed across the screen. Executive livestream unveiling the future of Apex. I tapped it. Bryce appeared on stage, beaming beneath bright lights as diagrams filled the screen behind him. Clean lines, familiar logic. A structure I knew the way some people know their own handwriting. I watched quietly as he called it proprietary, revolutionary, his legacy. And for the first time since the meeting, I smiled. The livestream opened on Bryce's smile, polished and unbothered, the kind that assumes agreement before it's earned. "Today marks a turning point," he announced, letting the words settle. "We're investing $100 million into a fully integrated automation platform designed to carry Apex into the next decade." Applause rolled in waves. I recognized a few faces near the front row, people who used to ask me questions before they learned how to nod on cue. The first slide appeared. Clean colors, new name. The logo slid into place like it had always belonged there. "Built in-house," Bryce continued. "Fully proprietary." I leaned closer to the screen. The diagram shifted, zooming into the core architecture, the branching logic, the redundancy loops, the control hierarchy I had argued for when everyone else wanted shortcuts. "Notice the adaptive routing," Bryce said, tapping the screen. "It's what sets us apart." I felt my jaw tighten. That routing pattern had cost me 3 weekends and a whiteboard I never fully cleaned. A man off camera spoke up. "So this replaces the legacy stack entirely." Bryce didn't hesitate. "Completely. This is ours." The word landed heavier than it should have. Another slide. Same structure, different colors. A new name printed across the top like a signature that didn't belong to the hand. Every line was written with scalability in mind. Bryce added, "No external dependencies." My phone buzzed on the table. I didn't look at it yet. A woman's voice broke through the audio, and the intellectual property Bryce smiled wider. Owned, secured, future-proof. I muted the stream. For a moment, the room felt smaller, like all the air had been taken out and handed to someone else. I replayed the diagram in my head, tracing paths I could still draw from memory. Nothing fundamental had changed. They hadn't rebuilt it. They had renamed it. My phone buzzed again. I flipped it over. A message from Rowan, one of the senior engineers who used to sit 2 desks down from me. "Are you watching this?" I didn't reply. I opened my laptop instead and pulled up a folder I hadn't touched in months. The first document loaded slowly, like it was making a point. Patent filing, original claims, my name, centered and unmissable. I unmuted the stream just as Bryce concluded. This platform is the foundation of our future. I closed the laptop and let the words echo, already knowing how fragile a foundation can be when it's borrowed. They had called it cautious. That was the word Jonah Bauer used years ago when I first laid the diagrams across the conference table. He had studied them longer than most, fingers tracing the margins, nodding once as if he understood the weight of what he was holding. It's elegant, he admitted, but it's heavy. Too much change at once, across from him. Someone else scoffed. We need something faster, something easier to sell. Bryce hadn't been there yet. Back then, he was still building a reputation somewhere else, talking about disruption to rooms that didn't know what they were losing. Jonah closed the folder and pushed it back toward me. Not now, he said. Maybe later. Later never came. I didn't argue. I thanked him, gathered the papers, and walked out with the same calm I'd learned to keep for moments like that. By the time I reached my desk, the decision had already been made. I didn't need permission to protect my work. Bennett Integrated Systems existed on paper long before anyone at Apex noticed. A quiet holding company, registered in my name, built for a single purpose. I filed the first patent that winter, then another, then the ones that mattered most. Each submission took weeks. Each claim was written with precision, stripped of anything unnecessary, control logic, adaptive routing, fail-safe enforcement. I documented everything they had waved away as excessive. When the confirmations arrived, I printed them once and filed them away. No announcements, no celebrations, just proof. Years passed. Apex used early versions of the system in pieces, always under my oversight, always with my approval. No one asked about ownership. No one questioned why I insisted on certain boundaries. Why lock it down so tightly, a project manager once complained. Because systems remember who treats them carefully, I replied. And left it at that. Now, sitting alone with the live stream paused on Bryce's confident face, I opened the folder again. Patent abstracts, filing dates, jurisdiction stamps, every core element, every structural decision. Mine. My phone buzzed, sharp and insistent. I answered this time. Rowan didn't bother with small talk. Tell me something, he said. Did they ever buy this from you? No? I replied. A breath on the other end. Slow. Measured. Then they've made a very expensive assumption. I closed the folder and let the silence stretch, authority settling into place without effort. The first call came from Rowan before noon. It isn't crashing, he said. That's the strange part. What is it doing, I asked. He hesitated. It's refusing. By mid-afternoon, the messages multiplied. Line supervisors, control engineers, names I recognized, voices tighter than usual. The commands go through, one of them explained. They're clean, verified. But the system doesn't execute. Another voice cut in. It flags them as unauthorized, not invalid. Unauthorized. At Apex, Bryce called an emergency huddle. I watched through a shared screen link someone forgot to revoke. This is a rollout issue, Bryce snapped. Nothing more. We spent $100 million on this. It works. An engineer shifted in his chair. The logs show permission failures at the core layer. Bryce waved it off, then fixed the permissions. We tried. Try harder. Someone pulled up a diagnostic tree, boxes lit up in calm colors. Orderly and unpanicked. Nothing was broken. Nothing was panicking. The system was behaving exactly as designed. Why would it reject internal commands, Bryce demanded. No one answered right away. Rowan spoke carefully. Because it doesn't recognize the authority chain. That's nonsense, Bryce shot back. I signed off on this. A younger engineer leaned forward. Signing off isn't the same as owning the keys. Silence dropped hard. Bryce straightened. Are you suggesting the system doesn't belong to us? I'm saying it's enforcing something we didn't account for. Bryce's jaw tightened. You're overthinking it. This is why we needed fresh perspectives. Fresh. That word again. Bypass the check, he ordered. Manual override. Now. The room shifted. Not with relief, but with unease. That will escalate the lock, someone warned. Bryce stared him down. I don't care. I'm not letting a machine tell me what I can't do. The override command was entered. The system paused, then responded with a single line across the dashboard. Authority denied. Phones began ringing almost immediately. production supervisors, account managers, a client liaison asking why shipments were delayed. Bryce turned, sharp and angry. "This is on you," he told the team. "Every minute this drags on." I closed the feed and set my phone face down. The machines hadn't failed. They had simply stopped accepting orders from someone who didn't have the right to give them. By the next morning, Apex had hired help. Rowan's voice came through my phone, low and tight. They flew in consultants overnight. Big names. "Did Bryce introduce them as saviors?" I asked. "Like heroes," he replied. 5 suits, matching confidence. I didn't comment. The first consultant took the floor with a polished smile. "We've reviewed the architecture," he announced. "The issue is legacy friction." Bryce nodded eagerly. "Exactly, that's what I've been saying." A second consultant chimed in. "Our recommendation is a full rewrite of the permission layer." Rowan shifted uncomfortably. "That layer controls compliance." The consultant waved it off. "Compliance slows innovation." Bryce leaned forward. "Do it." They tried. The system accepted the change, then quietly reclassified it as external interference. Logs duplicated. Processes looped. The dashboards filled with warnings that didn't repeat themselves the same way twice. One of the consultants frowned at his screen. "That's odd." Another cleared his throat. "It's adapting. Then adapt faster." Bryce snapped. "We paid you to fix this." By afternoon, the fixes had multiplied the problem. 1 paused line became 3, 3 became 6. Orders backed up. Shipping notifications stalled. An account manager joined the call. Breathless. "We have clients asking for explanations." "Tell them it's temporary," Bryce said. "It's not just one." She pushed back. 2 have paused shipments. How many? Bryce demanded. 4. As of now. Silence crept in, slow and uncomfortable. A consultant tried again. "We could brute force the compliance checks." Rowan shook his head. "That will lock it down completely." Bryce stood. "You're all overcomplicating this. It's code. Code bends?" "It doesn't," Rowan replied. Then stopped himself. Bryce turned on him. "What was that?" "Nothing." The consultants exchanged looks. One of them finally said what none of them wanted to. "This system behaves like it's protecting ownership." Bryce scoffed. "We own it." No one echoed him. I ended the call without a word. On my desk. The patent folder remained closed. I hadn't moved it since the night before. I didn't need to. While they spent money chasing permission they didn't have, the numbers did what numbers always do when arrogance runs out of room. The board meeting was called without ceremony. No agenda, no pleasantries. I wasn't invited. But Rowan sent me the link anyway. "They're scared," he said. "You should hear this." Martin K. sat at the head of the table, hands folded, expression unreadable. He waited until the chatter died. "Let's skip the performance," he began. "Production is down. Clients are pausing orders. Consultants are billing by the hour. I want answers." Bryce leaned forward, already defensive. "This is a temporary implementation issue." Martin didn't look at him. "Before we discuss implementation, I need one thing clarified." He turned, finally meeting Bryce's eyes. "Do we own the intellectual property that system is enforcing?" The room went quiet in a way that felt different, heavier. Bryce blinked. "Of course we do." "Show me," Martin replied. A general counsel cleared her throat. "We ran an expedited search this morning." Bryce waved a hand. "That isn't necessary." "It already happened," she said, sliding a document onto the screen. The title appeared first, then the filing number, then the owner, Bennett Integrated Systems. Martin read it once, then again. "Who is this?" Bryce's jaw tightened. "It's a shell. Legacy paperwork. It's active." The counsel corrected. "Filed years ago. Renewed. Enforced." Another board member leaned in. "Every core claim?" "Yes." Bryce pushed back from the table. "This is a misunderstanding. She built it here." Martin didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Building and owning are not the same thing. A pause stretched. Someone checked their phone. Someone else stopped taking notes. "Have we ever licensed this technology?" Martin asked. No answer came. "Have we paid for the rights?" he continued. The silence deepened. Rowan spoke carefully from the far end. "The system is rejecting commands because it's doing what it was designed to do." Bryce snapped toward him. "You're speculating." "I'm stating facts," Rowan replied. "The authority chain doesn't include us." Martin closed the document. "Then this is no longer an engineering problem." He looked directly at Bryce. You have 48 hours to prove authorization or mitigate exposure. Bryce opened his mouth, then closed it. The call ended without resolution. I shut my laptop and rested my hand on the patent folder, feeling the shift settle in. They had finally asked the question that mattered. I didn't wait for the 48 hours to run out. The call connected on the second ring. I saw the filings. My attorney said, "They finally noticed." "They noticed the wrong thing," I replied. "They still think this can be patched." A pause. Paper shifting. "What do you want to do?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain, "Revoke it." Another pause. Shorter this time. Effective immediately. "Yes, then we issue notice today." By the afternoon, the letter was out. Not dramatic, not threatening, precise. 2 options. Written in language that didn't need emphasis. Cease use of the system at once. Or enter a licensing agreement at market rate, with formal acknowledgement of authorship and ownership. Nothing else. No insults, no leverage games. Just facts. Rowan called me an hour later. "They received it?" "Who did I ask?" "Everyone." He said, "Legal? The board? Bryce?" And he laughed. Rowan said, then stopped. At first, I pictured Bryce the way he always laughed when he thought someone else had overplayed their hand. Another call came through, this one from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring. The voicemail arrived seconds later, clipped and furious. "You don't get to do this," Bryce said. "You built that system on our time." I didn't return the call. At Apex, the room shifted again. Consultants stopped recommending. Legals stopped hedging. The options on the table were suddenly smaller. Martin called an emergency session. Bryce pushed back hard. "This is extortion," he insisted. "It's ownership," the general counsel corrected. Bryce slammed his palm down. "We're not paying her." And the acknowledgement someone asked? "Never," Bryce snapped. The decision landed exactly where I expected it to. Rowan's final message came just before dusk. He's ordering a manual reboot. Says he won't let a former employee shut down his company. I closed my laptop and set my phone face down. The line had been drawn, not by me, but by the refusal to step back when survival required it. The reboot happened before dawn. Rowan called me from the factory floor, voice low and strained. He forced it through. Manual override. No legal clearance. I said nothing. In the control room, someone counted down out of habit. Not because it helped, but because silence made people nervous. 3, a console chimed. 2, screens flickered. 1, the system paused, as if considering the request. Then every display across the room went black and came back online at once. A single message pulsed in steady white text. Authority denied. A technician swallowed. That wasn't there before. It's enforcing the license. Another said, "We don't have one." Alarms didn't blare. Machines didn't scream. The lines simply stopped moving, arms frozen mid-cycle. Conveyors locked in place like they'd been told to wait for permission that never came. Bryce stormed in moments later. "Who authorized this?" No one answered. "Restart it," he barked. "We can't," Rowan replied. "It won't accept commands from our chain." Bryce slammed his hand against the console. "I am the chain." The system didn't respond. Phones began ringing. Account managers, operations leads, a client liaison patched through without waiting. "Our shipment didn't leave," she said. "That was a priority order." Another call cut in. "They're suspending the contract pending explanation." "How many?" Bryce demanded. 3, she said, then hesitated. 4. By mid-morning, the board was on a private line. Voices overlapped. Numbers were read out loud, each one heavier than the last. Revenue forecasts revised, penalties triggered, confidence evaporating in real time. An investor spoke plainly. "This exposure is unacceptable." Bryce tried to regain control. "This is temporary." Martin's voice cut through the noise, calm and final. "Temporary problems don't invalidate authority." Legal cleared their throat. "Without a license, continued operation increases liability." Bryce turned toward Rowan. "Fix it." Rowan shook his head. "There's nothing to fix." The room fell quiet again, this time without confusion. The system had made its position clear. Power had not been taken. It had been withdrawn. The board reconvened before noon. This time, Bryce wasn't smiling. Martin K. didn't waste time. "We've reviewed the exposure," he said, voice even. "Operational shutdown, contract suspensions, legal liability tied directly to unauthorized use of intellectual property. Bryce leaned forward. This is an overreaction. No, Martin replied. It's a consequence. The general counsel spoke next. Careful and exact. Continuing without a valid license increases damages with every hour. We cannot operate the system legally, Bryce scoffed. Then we buy the license. That option was presented. Martin said. You rejected it. A pause followed. Not awkward, decisive. One of the board members cleared her throat. This situation exists because due diligence was ignored. Another added, and because warnings were dismissed. Bryce's voice rose. You're blaming me for a technical issue. Martin shook his head once. We're holding you accountable for a governance failure. The vote moved quickly after that. No speeches, no negotiations, just raised hands, one after another, until the outcome was unavoidable. Martin looked directly at Bryce. Your contract is terminated, effective immediately. For the first time since I'd known him, Bryce had nothing ready, no slogan, no defense. He stood slowly, straightened his jacket, and picked up his tablet. Security waited by the door, not aggressive, just present. As Bryce walked out, no one followed him with their eyes. The room didn't erupt. It didn't celebrate. The absence of noise felt intentional, like the company itself had decided not to remember him. Rowan texted me a single line as the meeting adjourned. It's done. I set my phone down and let the quiet settle. There was no satisfaction in it. Exactly. Just a sense of alignment, as if events had finally caught up with the truth they had been avoiding. The system remained locked. Production stayed paused. Decisions were now someone else's responsibility. For the first time in days, nothing was demanded of me. I didn't go back to Apex. Martin called once, his voice measured. The board would like to discuss next steps. I'm listening, I said. We're exploring licensing options. With your approval, with conditions, I replied. He didn't argue. Name them. My name stays on the work. Decisions go through me, and respect isn't negotiable. A pause, then a quiet acknowledgement. Understood. That was the last conversation I had with anyone from the company. 2 weeks later, I sat across from a different team in a smaller conference room. No banners, no slogans on the wall. They asked real questions. They listened when I answered. We're not looking for shortcuts, their director said. We want something that lasts. Then you don't rush it, I told him. And you don't pretend ownership where there isn't any. He nodded. Fair. The agreement was clean. Licensing only. Clear attribution, clear boundaries. No theatrics. When Rowan called to say Apex had signed the licensing deal after all, I let the call go to voicemail. He left a brief message anyway. They finally realized what they lost. I deleted it. The work didn't need vindication. It needed stewardship. Later that evening, I closed the folder marked Bennett Integrated Systems and slid it into the drawer where it belonged. Not hidden, just settled. The way things are when they've found their place. For years, I had been told I was holding onto a role that no longer mattered. That experience was a liability. That age made me replaceable. What I learned instead was simple. Titles can be taken. Access can be revoked. Offices can be reassigned. Ownership cannot. The life lesson came quietly, without applause or bitterness. Build what lasts, protect what you create, and never confuse permission with power.